Today we're going to be looking at sampling methods. These are sampling methods that you would use in taking a survey. So we have to think about the surveys that you have a huge population, all right? And it's often impossible when you're interested in, say, the students at Grant High School or the people of Portland to ask everybody in that given population. So you have to choose a sample, all right? You have to choose a group of people. You want the choice to be unbiased. You want to represent every kind of person and just have a manageable group that you can work with. So how do we do this? Well, there's certain ways you can do it. One is using probability sampling and non-probability sampling. All right, we're going to focus on probability sampling. This is because it allows everyone ideally has an equal chance of being selected, so it's not biased at all. Where non-probability selecting is, that would be like things like convenience selecting, where there's going to be some people who have absolutely no chance of being selected. So ideally, you always want to try to be using probability, and these are the four that we're going to look at. Now, the first one is simple random sample. So simple random sample would be everybody gets a number. You're going to select those numbers from a hat and choose just a small group of those who got selected from the hat. Simple random sample. How to do it? Well, you can have a table of random numbers. So for students, maybe everyone's ID, and then you randomly pick that. Some kind of lottery system is used. The advantage is that everybody has an equal chance of being selected, so you really avoid all bias here. The problem is, what if the population is large? What if we're asking everybody, trying to take a survey of everyone in the United States? Well, that's really hard to get everyone a number and then select it and then find those people. So it's not always possible. The other type that is a little easier to do is something called systematic sampling. And simple systematic sampling would be simply that you'd say, like, ask every third person who walks through the door. Or if you had a list of names, you would just choose every third person on that list. You'd come up with some kind of system. All right, how to do it? So basically, once you've got everybody, you choose the nth record or the nth person. You choose some way of doing it, whether through mail or through a doorway. You find some way of coming up with a systematic method. The advantage is that it's pretty easy to design, and the sample can be evenly spread over the population. The problem is that if for some reason there's some kind of pattern in your population, and that pattern matches the system you designed, then you're going to actually come up with bias. The next method we want to look at is stratified sampling. So stratified sampling looks at the entire population. So we'll look at that. Have your population. We're going to do a simplified population of purple, red, and green people. We're going to break it up into strata, which is also called groups. Homogeneous, meaning they're all the same. So I break them up into their color, and then I randomly pick people. Now, this would be for colored people, or in terms of these types of colors. I don't mean to simplify that word color. But in our case of a high school, what we would be doing it is we'd be breaking it up perhaps by grade level. So it would be 10th, 11th, 12th grade and 9th grade, and we just randomly choose from that. So stratified sample, you just break them up into groups and you randomly pick them. The advantages are that you really, every unit, every kind of person, you can really identify all of your different groups and ensure that everybody is represented. So this is really great if you have small minority groups and subgroups. The disadvantage is that it can get really complicated to figure out what your groups are, and sometimes the groups are too small to pick from. All right, another type is cluster. Now, cluster is different. Now, it's going to sound similar to stratified, but it's different. Cluster samples, when I break the population into groups, notice each of these groups that I have here. They all are a mix of different kinds of people, different colors, that represent everybody in the population. So when it's a whole bunch of different kind of people, we call that a heterogeneous group. So what we do here is we try to break things up into heterogeneous groups and then just choose two groups to represent everybody. So for cluster, you can divide your groups into these clusters of heterogeneous groups. The advantage is that it's really easy to set up these groups. At a school, the groups could be classes like elective classes that have all class grade levels. If you were studying health, for example, maybe the group would just be one hospital. The disadvantage is that you can get sampling error. Since you may be only choosing one hospital or one classroom to represent everybody, there is a chance that certain groups won't be there. The groups that there's just a small amount of might not be shown. So we've got 4 sampling methods to choose from and to think about as we design surveys. Please keep all of these in mind.